Hi, I'm Cecilia. Happy New Year. Previously, I began a new series called Walk the Talk, and the first session we talked about introduction to Jude. That is, who wrote the book of Jude, who was Jude, where was he from, and who he was writing to, and we just had an overview of the book of Jude. But now we're going to go to the next question, which is, why did Jude write the book of Jude? Like, what was the purpose, or what was the message of the book of Jude? And we can find that in verses 3, where he says, Beloved, although I was very eager to write to you about a common salvation, I found it necessary to write appealing to you to contend for the faith that was once for all delivered to the saints. That is Jude 1 verse 3. So his focal point, or his focal message, or the purpose of him writing the book of Jude was to ask the believers he was writing to, or the recipients of his letter, to contend for the faith that was once for all delivered to the saints. And he says firstly that I wanted to write to you about a common salvation, or our common faith. And we might ask ourselves, what is this common faith that he was talking about? Probably he wanted to talk to them about what salvation meant, in terms of believing in Jesus Christ for our salvation, in terms of him dying on the cross for our sins and washing away our sins, in terms of how believers are not supposed to act now that they are new creation. You know, the way Paul writes to his believers, like the Ephesians, or how he writes or the Romans, how he tells them the basic the basic theology of what their faith means, starting from how we come to faith, who saves us, and who God is, and how now later on in his epistles he writes about how Christians are expected to behave or live within their community. And I think that is what Jude wanted to write at first, telling them about what their faith, the basic knowledge, or the basic principles of being a Christian, or the basic theology about being a Christian. And later on he thought, because of maybe somebody came and gave him information of how the church is right now, or how the church is acting right now, he changed his thought from writing about their common faith and told them to, and started writing about and started telling them to contend for the faith. And his message became about them contending for the faith. As we look on, as we continue on with the study of the book of Jude, we realize that he was warning them against certain people who have, according to verse 4, who have crept in unnoticed, who came into the church and slipped into the congregation and started bringing about some other knowledge, some other way of life that was not in accordance to the faith that was once for all delivered to them. That was the faith that they were given previously, that they were taught, or that they were preached to previously. And so he taught them he's writing to teach them, his recipients, to contend for the faith, to fight for the faith, like to stand for the faith, to stand firm in faith, to not be swayed to and fro, to not to be held captives by deceitful schemes, to not to be swayed away with in doctrine that is not in accordance with their faith. So he's telling them to learn to know their faith first, and then to stand firm in their faith that they once received at one point, and now it is being challenged by other people who are bringing in new things that was not taught to them. So he's telling them to stand firm. He's telling them to keep alert, like be watchful, so that they are not swayed by other false doctrine, and they are not taken to a different direction than what they were taught at first. So his message is for them to fight, like to contend, like to be vigilant, so that they do not end up believing something different from what they believed at first, to be aware that there are false doctrines going around, so that they may be able to notice it when it comes and be able to get away from it, or to not pay attention to it, or to fight back with those people who are trying to bring in a new doctrine that they were never taught before. So that is the focal point of the book of Jude. Later on, he continues to give them a description of who these people are, these people who came into their congregation, and also he describes them or compares them and with other incidents in the Old Testament, that is the Sodom and Gomorrah, and also the time Israelites were moving from Egypt into Canaan. And also gives them, he quotes about other writings, like the writing of Enoch that he quotes, telling them that this will come to an end, they're not there forever. And also he gives them different examples, and to show them how they can notice these false people, false prophets, or false teachers who are bringing in different doctrines, or who are behaving in a different way other than what they were taught before. So as we continue on, we'll continue asking ourselves some questions and answering them from the book of Jude, so that we may be able to understand the book of Jude better. And yes, I thank you for joining me today. So today we just tackled to what was the focal point of the book of Jude, or why was Jude writing his letter to the congregation. And we have seen that he wanted them to fight for the faith, or to contend for the faith that the once for all believed at first. And the basic doctrine that they were given, the teachings, the principles, the theology that they were given at first concerning their faith, he wants them to stand by it and not allow anybody to change that faith, to change that doctrine, to change that theology that they first received. And that is the discussion for today. So if you have anything else you want to add to it, please write it down in the comment section. And thank you for joining me. Until next week, when we meet each other again, Happy New Year and goodbye, and see you then.